You're listening to Straight from the Hat with Ben Vaughn.
Every day starts with a broken heart. I must be too sensitive for this world. Well, I know it ain't right to cry every night. I must be too sensitive for this world.
He's had a career filled with twists and turns as a performer, songwriter, composer for film and TV, and record producer. For Ben Vaughn, the best part of the journey has been the colorful characters he's encountered along the way. His friend Laura Pocatello, who works for Sun Records in Nashville, wrote the names of those characters down and placed them in a hat. Each episode, she'll select names at random and let Ben relive the stories. No pre-planning, no filter. Just telling it like it was. Straight from the hat.
Hello, Laura.
Hello, Ben.
How are you down there in Music City, USA?
Great day in Music City, USA. How are things in parts unknown?
Things are great. Things are great.
Well, they're about to get better because we just got some listener mail, and this one is pretty creative.
In what way?
It is a haiku about Sonny Bono.
A haiku about Sonny Bono?
That's right. I don't think they're sending that to a lot of other podcasts.
I'm sure they're not. Wow, our people have found us. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, you're right. My day got better. Wow, what do you know? Okay, in the hat, we have names that you put in there, and you're going to pull one out, which is what we do here in case you're new to this podcast. Laura has a hat with a bunch of names in it, and she's going to pull one out, and what would that be?
All right, let's see what this next name is. The next name is the Stooges.
Oh, the Stooges. I have two Stooges stories. One of them is in 1969. I heard the Stooges on whatever the underground station was at the time in Philly, and I was reading about them more. I saw a picture of Iggy doing something with his body that I've never even seen a contortionist do, and it involved a mic. And it involved a mic stand, And I was like, and so they played. Talk about a bill, the Buddy Miles Express, 1969. The Buddy Miles Express were playing at the Electric Factory, this, the club, the psychedelic dungeon that, every city had one or two of them. And we had the Electric Factory in another place called the Trauma, which is a great name for a club.
That is a great name.
Yeah. They went out of business after about a year and a half, so I never got to go there. But at the Electric Factory, the Stooges were opening for the Buddy Miles Express, which is like a big, horn band kind of soul, Buddy Miles.
Right.
And I went, they had two shows. They had the early show and the late show. And I made the mistake of going to the late show. I took the bus over from South Jersey and went to the club, and the guy at the door would not let me in because I was like 14 years old. And it was classic because he goes, "Hey, man, the pigs are trying to shut us down, man. And if I let you in there, you're underage, and that's all they need. The pigs are hassling us, man." It was 1969, right?
Right.
And I was like, "Come on, man, let me in." He goes, "No, man, we can't risk it." And he wouldn't let me in. So I heard this rumble inside the building, and I couldn't make out anything other than, I know that's the Stooges, because it was really loud. It just sounded like chaos. So I didn't see them. I didn't see them. And about, exactly a year later, 1970, the summer of 1970, I go into this record shop that I hung out in all the time, and this amazing record is on the turntable. So I asked the guy, "What's that?" And he goes, "Oh, it's the Stooges' second album." And I go, "Holy shit, I want to buy it." And he goes, "Well, I'm not going to sell it to you." I go, "Why?" He goes, "We only got one copy in, and I want to listen to it." And I said, "You can't do that. This is a store. You got to sell it to me." And
I know my rights. Give me that.
And I had a $5 bill in my pocket because I was cutting lawns that summer to make money, and I had a $5 bill in my pocket, and I told him, I said, "You have to sell me this." The guy's name was Mark. I'll never forget this guy. So he reluctantly sold it to me, and he goes, man, I got to wait like 2 or 3 weeks to get another copy of this in, And I was like, well, that's your problem.
Yeah, that's a you thing. I have the new Stooges now.
So I took that record home, Funhouse, and I listened to it over and over and over again, and I could not believe what I was hearing. It was really like for a 15-year-old kid, emotionally turbulent 15-year-old kid who is experimenting with what they now call self-medicating. we just called it getting high, getting loaded. And I didn't think I was escaping anything. I was just, loved it. And that record was amazing for me. I had long hair. I was getting hassled by jocks and all that. And that record just made me feel like, yeah, I'm a member of a tribe. You people here can't see it, but I know my tribe is out there and I'm a member. It was really cool. And about 30 years later, I did a gig in Philly, and this guy comes up and goes, hey, you remember me? I go, no. He says, Mark. My name's Mark. I used to work at Record Museum. I go, oh, hey, how you doing? He goes, great. I'm still pissed off about the Stooges album.
No way.
I had to wait 3 weeks to get
awesome.
that record. Yeah. So, yeah.
He's still holding a grudge out there.
He is. Right now, if you called him right now and told him what we were just talking about, he would not be a happy guy.
But you never got to see the Stooges live then?
Actually, a miracle happened. The Stooges got back together in, I don't know what year, 2001 maybe, around that time,
Okay.
I think. And I was booked to play a music festival in Spain, a big outdoor music festival, on a bill with the Stooges and the Cramps.
Whoa.
And Ray Davies and Teenage Fan Club, all these. It was like a huge thing in the middle of this field up in Vitoria, Spain. It was called the Azquina Rock Festival. And the Stooges went on 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was cold out. And I remember, I had a performer's pass, so I was allowed to hang out in the photographer's pit and watch the show, and also hang out backstage. And I was watching Iggy. Starting around 1:30 in the morning, he's jogging in place with no shirt on. It's freezing out at this point because it was in October. And
it's the middle of the night.
Yeah, it's the middle of the night, and he's back there jogging in place, and steam is coming off him. It was it was amazing. But it was the Stooges. I mean, it was Ron Ashton on guitar and Scott Ashton on drums, Mike Watt on bass, and that sax dude, Steve, I forget his name, Steve McKay, I think. And I got a chance to see the Stooges, and I remember it was amazing to finally hear those first 2 albums perform live. I couldn't believe it was happening because they meant so much to me. And
yeah, that's crazy.
And they sounded great. They sounded like no time had gone by at all,
Wow.
And Iggy was amazing. I mean, he was really, really into it, and the crowd was going berserk. There's like 30,000 people there, I think. So I'm in the photographer's pit with Francis McDonald from Teenage Fan Club, and we're like both in amazement, like we're actually watching the Stooges,
This is happening, yeah.
Yeah, and at one point Iggy jumped off the stage into the crowd, and Francis turned to me and just gave me this gesture like, well, of course that was going to happen. It was
like
really,
a shrug.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, of course, he's Iggy. This will happen. But the coolest part about it was watching Lux and Ivy watch the Stooges.
That's so cool.
Because we were hanging by the side of the stage at one point, and Lux and Ivy are watching Iggy. And I thought, wow, this is a beautiful moment. Let me memorize this right now. And a friend of mine took a picture of them watching him. It's I'll have to see if I can find that picture. But yeah, finally saw the Stooges, and it was everything I had hoped for.
That's an amazing way to see them too, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Okay, I'm reaching in the hat.
Okay, hold it. Drum
Here
roll.
we go. Drum roll.
Yes. All right.
Danny and the Juniors.
Danny and the Juniors. That's in the hat? Wow. Okay.
It's in the hat,
yeah.
for sure.
Well, Danny and the Juniors, what I have to say about them, a Philadelphia act, so I'm very familiar with them. When I was coming up as a musician, there were guys who could play a lot better than me, and they could read charts, and they were just boom in it. I was struggling to learn guitar. It took me a while. I was a drummer, and that was going well, and everybody liked what I did, but my guitar playing was not popular for quite a while.
When did you start playing guitar?
I was probably 14 or 15. So I was playing drums in bands up until then, and then I decided I wanted to write songs, and it's kind of hard to write a song on drums, like boom, boom, psh. That's my new song. What do you think? It doesn't work. So I started learning chords, and a friend of mine, he was a guitar player, and he wanted to be a better lead guitar player, so he taught me how to play rhythm so he could play lead over top of me. But it was slow for me. It was really going slow. And there were other guys who were just, boom, they were in, and they were like, they actually started getting work in lounge bands and stuff before they graduated high school. And if you're that type of musician who gets work because you're that good, that quick, you end up backing up all these oldies acts in Philly, like Danny and the Juniors, and even Joe Frazier, the boxer, heavyweight champ. He put out a record or two, and he had a band called Joe Frazier and the Knockouts. And there was this kind of rotating cast of local musicians who were backing up all these people. Whether one week is Joe Frazier, and then it's Danny and the Juniors, and then it's Fabian or Frankie Avalon or Bobby Rydell or whoever, Charlie Gracie, all these Philadelphia acts. Danny Rapp was the lead singer of Danny and the Juniors, and he had a troubled life after the hits stopped. He was still performing in all the lounges, and a friend of mine, more of an acquaintance than a friend, a guy I knew, a drummer, he went out on the last tour that Danny did as Danny and the Juniors, and they would send out, they had more than one Danny and the Juniors they would send out. So they had
a rotating cast, if you will.
Yeah, well, there's this agency in Philly called Jolly Joyce, and they would buy the names of. They even bought the Box Tops name for a while, and there was a Box Tops out there, and I actually helped Alex Chilton get in touch with Jolly Joyce and say, "Hey, I'm the guy." I thought maybe he was suing, but what Alex did, he goes, "Send me out instead. I'm the real guy." So next thing you know, he's fronting this mediocre version of the Box Tops and enjoying it. It was very funny. But the Jolly Joyce agency, they would send they would have the Coasters and the Drifters and little, Danny and the Juniors and all these groups out there. And there'd be one in Fort Lauderdale. At the same time, there's one in Ohio playing the same night,
Sure.
But Danny himself was one of the acts that would go out, and they went out west, and they were playing a hotel in Arizona, somewhere in Arizona. And Danny had a severe drinking problem, and near the end, he would be on stage inebriated or not show. And so they're out there, and Danny didn't show for one night, so they had, the female backup singer do the whole night, and then he didn't show up for the second one, and they decided they're going to call it quits, and they're going to drive all the way back to Philadelphia from Arizona. And when they arrived in Philly, they had the radio on, and the news came on that Danny Rapp had committed suicide in Arizona, in a motel room in, what's the name of the town? It's right on Parker, Arizona, yeah. That he had that afternoon gone to a place called the Yacht Club, which is really funny, if you're in Arizona, ironic name for a bar. And he got really hammered and went back to a motel he was staying in, and he killed himself. And it's just kind of I don't know, there's something so tragic about a teen star, because he was a teenager when At the Hop and Rock and Roll Was Here to Stay were hits, and to continue playing clubs through disco even. He had to do versions of Disco Inferno and all those songs to keep working.
Right.
I think it was 1980, was when he killed himself. And there's something, I don't know, there's something so cinematic and so tragic about that always haunted me, like the last days of Danny Rapp. But the guy who played drums for him that I knew, he was devastated, and he was mad at Danny too. He's like, God damn it, we're driving back to Philly. That guy can't even show up. And then he just felt really guilty about all that. That was, kind of the end of the Philly pop dream right there in some ways.
A tragic story. Honestly, would make an interesting novel of sorts.
Yeah, James Elroy, actually, ought to be the one to get on that. Have you ever read Dick Contino's Blues?
I never have.
It's a short story that James Elroy wrote about Dick Contino, who was a famous accordion player. And you have to read it to see. It's pretty dark. And it's funny, but it's also, wow. Dick Contino's Blues by James Elroy. But I actually have a personal connection to Danny and the Juniors.
Really?
Mm-hmm. John Madera co-wrote At the Hop with Dave White, who was in Danny and the Juniors, and also produced Rock and Roll Is Here to Stay. And they were a songwriting team, and they actually wrote You Don't Own Me by Leslie Gore.
By Leslie Gore.
Yeah. 1963. How ahead of its time was that song?
I love that song.
I mean, that's a song about emancipation, or you could say anything. I mean, women's empowerment, everything. It's been used, actually, for reproductive rights campaigns and everything. You Don't Own Me.
It has been used for that, yeah. And actually was a whole new audience heard it in the past couple years because Taylor Swift was using it too as kind of her theme song about buying back her masters, which we don't have to get into all that and if that was the right song for it. But it is interesting that that song has such a staying power and is so important to women, but as many of the girl group era hits were written by men.
Written by two guys from Danny and the Juniors. That's the
Even
weirdest
that,
part.
yeah.
Yeah, it gets weirder. They also wrote and produced 1, 2, 3 by Len Barry and a bunch of Northern Soul stuff they did with Leon Huff of Gamble and Huff. But the thing that I like most about the John Madera, Dave White story is that they put out a record under the name The Spokesman. It was an answer record to Eve of Destruction, called Dawn of Correction, 1965. And see if I can remember the lyrics to that. You missed all the good in your evaluation. No, yeah, you missed all the good in your evaluation. What about the things that deserve commendation? Where there was once no cure, there's vaccination. Where there was once a desert, there's vegetation.
Well, we don't really have vaccinations anymore, but...
yeah. And then the chorus is, you're wrong. We're just on the dawn of correction, not the eve of destruction. And they posed on the album cover wearing black turtlenecks. And I knew P.F. Sloan, the guy who wrote Eve of Destruction, and I asked him, I said, what did you think of that? And he goes, I wish I could tell if they were sincere. If they were sincere, I admire it. If they were just trying to get a hit, I don't know.
What if they were sincerely trying to get a hit?
Wow. I didn't bring that option up. And Phil's gone now, so I'll never know what his reaction to that would be. But John Madera, in 1985, on New Year's Eve, I had a meeting with him. I went there with my manager and record producer at that time, Mark Van Hecke, who produced The Violent Femmes. We had recorded 10 songs in a studio with our own money, and we were pitching it around, and there was a label called Philly World in Philly. They came out of Alpha Studios. Alpha, I guess, was the competition to Sigma Studios, Alpha, Sigma.
Okay.
And I don't know if there was a Beta studio in Philly or not. But anyway, we had this meeting with them. And I'm sitting there across from the guy who sang Dawn of Correction. And we play our record, which is always painful for the artist when you're in the room watching people listen to your music.
Do you think it's easy for the label either? It's not.
Yeah, I'm sure it's bad for them too. It's uncomfortable for everybody, but it happens. And
it has to be done.
Yeah, I'm sitting there, and the dude who co-wrote At the Hop and Dawn of Correction and You Don't Own Me is sitting there listening, and then there's a long pause, and he goes, I'm not crazy about the accordion and the hubcap.
Thank you for the feedback.
We got that a lot. But the weird thing is, at one moment, this guy walks in the room and is standing behind us, and we stop the music, and it's Len Barry standing there. He had a New Year's Eve gig, and he had a question for John Madera. He said hi to us, and then he left. Len Barry walked in. It was a very Philadelphia moment. But the Danny and the Juniors, a big part of Philadelphia history. They have a star on Broad Street.
As they should.
And I was in Philly recently, and I pulled my camera out trying to get the perfect picture of the Danny and the Junior star on Broad Street. And these three construction workers are like, hey, what are you doing over there? What's going on over there? What's so special? I said, come on over. And I pointed, and they're like, whoa, Danny and the Juniors, now you're talking. Yeah, I was their new best friend. And they're actually here with me right now. Fellas, are you ready?
You guys can sing At the Hop together.
Yeah. Danny and the Juniors. God love them.
Reaching into the hat. Who does the hat have for us today?
I can't wait.
Could be anyone. Let's find out. Oh, this is good. Rip Torn.
Rip Torn. Wow. The star of Payback? Is that the name of that weird movie about the country star? Do you know that one?
I don't know that one. He's been in so many things, though. Like, everything.
There's a wild movie from the early 70s. I think it's called Payback or Payday, where he is a country star, and the whole movie makes no sense. It was one of those movies from that time where a plot was not necessary.
Yeah, it's not part of the story, doesn't need to drive anything. It's more of an experience than a linear plot.
I think they called them character studies.
I think that's generous, but yeah.
But I met Rip Torn. I actually met that guy. This is weird. I'm on the CBS Radford lot where we did Third Rock from the Sun and that 70s show. And that lot was wild. I almost killed Jerry Seinfeld with my car once.
Whoa.
Yeah, he was riding a bicycle. I'm in my Rambler driving down Republic Way, because it used to be Republic Studios back in the day. And all of a sudden, from behind a soundstage, a guy comes flying out on a bicycle, and it's Jerry Seinfeld. And I slammed on my brakes. And he gave me that Seinfeld look, like, really? This is how I'm going to die? Where's the dignity in this?
A Rambler?
Yeah, he just had that look. He wasn't mad at me. He just had a look like, really? This is it? It was pretty funny. But it was great working on that studio lot, because you would park by the old Gilligan Lagoon where they shot Gilligan's Island, and walk down New York Street, which was that fake New York Street on Seinfeld, to get to one of your sound stages. And our office for Third Rock was in the building that Jack Webb once inhabited, and Dragnet was produced out of that building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So I'm walking down Republic Way, and this guy I know who was working for the Larry Sanders Show waves me over and goes, hey, Ben, can you come over to the soundstage? We have a musical guest on, and nobody knows what to do with them. Nobody knows what to do with them. And I go,
we need a translator.
Yeah, and I go, who is it? And he says, the Butthole Surfers. And I was like, oh, perfect. I don't think anybody's the right guy, for that.
You're the closest, I guess, though.
Yeah, when you're a musician, people think you're weird, and you know how to speak weird with other weird people, and it's usually true. You can translate or help out,
But some things are even too weird.
Yeah. And the Butthole Surfers, I think, kind of epitomize the, where that line ends, But so I'm brought over to help out. I mean, and I did as best as I could. It was going okay. And then I'm introduced to Rip Torn, and Rip Torn was like, "I'm really glad to meet you." He was Rip Torn. It was pretty intense to meet him. But that time that I spent on that studio lot was really cool, because we also recorded a lot of music on there. And like one time I had to hire a mandolin player for a scene where John Lithgow is serenading Jane Curtin from below her window.
Okay, very Shakespearean.
So, I get the union book out, and I just hired this guy Al Vescovo. And then when he shows up, we start talking, and I realize, oh, this is Al Vescovo, the guy, like one of the Wrecking Crew dudes.
Yeah. And
played steel guitar on that really cool song by the Beach Boys called Diamond Head. I think it's on Friends, or maybe it's on Wild Hunt. It's on Friends, I think. A really cool instrumental. And we're talking, and it was funny because of all the stuff he did, he's on a bunch of records. If you Google him, he's one of those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was waxing poetic about the time when they used to record all the music for Barnaby Jones on the soundstage. He pointed over and goes, "That was my home for years. That was the best time of my life." And there were other kind of legendary, a lot of those guys lived in the valley, up in the valley. Like I went to this bar called the Money Tree in Burbank. It's not there anymore. And Preston Epps, the bongo player, was playing there that night. And I don't know if you're familiar with bongo rock, but that is it was a hit. It was a hit instrumental, bongo rock.
It's funny when you say both Preston Epps and Al Vescovo, I can see their names listed on the back of records. You know what I mean? They're musicians I'm familiar with because of that.
Yeah. And on drums, backing up Preston Epps was James Gadsden, the guy who played on the Bill Withers records.
Yeah.
And listen to those drum beats. I mean, Use Me by Bill Withers. What he's doing there, no one's ever done that before or since. And he looked like a pimp. He was dressed up. He had a big hat on and like a wide collar suit. He's back there playing drums, and I'm like, that's James Gadsden. And this is in a bar with no cover charge, Yeah,
you just walked in.
And Preston Epps, as a bongo player, one of the few times I've ever seen this happen. In cartoons when somebody runs real fast, their legs become a blur.
Yeah.
His hands, when he did a bongo solo, literally a blur. It was unbelievable.
Oh my gosh.
And I tried to hire him for a session. I got his phone number, and I guess he was dodging some debt collectors because when I called, he answered in an English accent and pretended he wasn't him. So he didn't trust me. He thought that I was pretending to want to hire him for a session or something. It was pretty
unknown
funny.
Number calling, yeah.
There was a place up there called Chadney's, and every Monday night Earl Palmer would play.
Oh, wow.
It was like an Earl Palmer jam session. And we would go, and one time I was hanging out talking to Earl Palmer. And Earl Palmer, again, if you Google, get ready for more than one day to go by before you're done.
Crazy credits, yeah.
Crazy credits. And he played drums on Willie and the Hand Jive by Johnny Otis. So I was asking him about that. And he goes, "Johnny Otis, let me tell you about that motherfucker." And I'm like, what? And he goes, "I'm going to tell you a story. It's going to blow your mind." And then the phone rings, and the bartender goes, "Hey, Earl, phone call for you." And he goes, "Hold that thought." And he goes over, and he takes the call. And then by the time he's done the call, it's time to be back on the bandstand. And I never heard the story. I still don't know.
Never heard the story?
No, I never did. I'll never know.
That's tragic.
Apparently, Earl Palmer had a great Johnny Otis story that might not have been flattering.
We can only imagine.
Yeah. But Rip Torn, a lot of actors and musicians, you just bump into them in the commissary. It was really cool. It was really, really cool. And most of those people aren't with us anymore. I was very lucky to meet them when they were here.
Did Rip Torn like the Butthole Surfers? Do you recall?
Man, I don't know.
I'm going to go with yeah.
He looked like he was ready for anything, I'll tell you that much.
Including the Butthole Surfers.
Quite possibly.
Into the hat we go. I'm very excited to see this next person.
Okay.
Thank you for the drum roll. This
Yes.
person deserves a drum roll for sure. You ready? I think you're going to like this. Hasil Adkins.
Hasil Adkins, the wild man of West Virginia. Man, oh man. Yeah,
What a guy.
I have a Hasil Adkins story. Hasil Adkins, for those of you who aren't familiar, and I beg you to become familiar, because this guy, he started recording these 45s for small labels early 60s, I think, where he played all the instruments himself. And very primitive lo-fi. He kind of invented what everybody tried to be later on with Psychobilly. He kind of invented Psychobilly, I think.
Yeah.
And he would hoot and holler and scream, and the lyrics were really bizarre. Like, I'm going to cut your head off, you know.
They're really they're pretty goth, actually.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to eat no more hot dogs because you're not going to have a head to eat them, you know, or whatever. Just really insane stuff. And
universal themes, yeah.
Yeah, he had a song called She Said that was recorded by the Cramps, and I think that's when a lot of awareness showed up. But Billy Miller and Miriam Lina, they had a label called Norton Records and a fanzine called Kicks. And Miriam was the original drummer for the Cramps. So we're talking about record collectors who specialized in 45s that none of us knew existed until Billy and Miriam and Lux and Ivy started showing us that there was a whole nother layer of rockabilly that we never heard of, and garage rock or whatever it was.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, Billy and Miriam, they took it upon themselves to go to West Virginia and find Hasil Adkins and get him back into the recording studio and get his records reissued. And they succeeded. They got him. And he was a wild man, like a real wild man, living maybe in a trailer, might have been a house. I forget the name of the town, but definitely in the hills of West Virginia. And there's
might not have even been a town. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a documentary that Julian Nitzberg did, who's a really, really cool guy, about Hasil that's nuts. It's just totally nuts. They end up drag racing in the mud, and everybody's high on acid, you know. And
That's amazing.
This is really, really incredible lifestyle stuff. He also did a documentary on this guy, Jessico, the tap dancing guy.
I don't know that.
Oh, man, Jessica White, I think his name was. This is West Virginia stuff. And Billy and Miriam released a lot of the older stuff and recorded new stuff with Hasil. And Folk City, a club in Manhattan we played a lot, was going to close. And for the final night of Folk City, they put a bill together with Hasil Adkins and me and a bunch of other people. I think the DBs were on the bill. I can't remember who else. And that was the first time anyone in New York had a chance to see Hasil Adkins. And he was a one-man band. He played a kick drum and a hi-hat and played guitar with this funky pickup on it going through an amp. And he wore this cowboy hat, and he was amazing that night. He was really, really amazing. We saw the thing. He kind of had a Jerry Lee Lewis kind of presentation, like just his rhythm and his like, hey, baby, you know, that kind of thing, you know, like really going for it, and rock and roll, and just really a lot of confidence in himself, you know.
Sure. And
it was a great set. And the next day, Billy and Miriam decide they're going to take Hasil to the Empire State Building. And the night before at the gig, everybody wanted to get their picture taken with him or take a picture of him. So he comes from West Virginia into a situation where he is worshipped by the people at the gig. And so the next day they take him up to the Empire State Building, and they get up to the top on the observation deck there. And of course, everybody up there has cameras and they're taking pictures. And Hasil says,
sure.
Hey, Billy, you know, you can let them know they can all take my picture if they want. He thought they were there for him.
He said, great. Here I am.
Yeah, and Miriam told me a funny story. So he's crashing at Billy and Miriam's apartment, and Miriam was walking down the street past the Flatiron Building back in the 80s, and she sees Andy Warhol. And she goes, oh, my God, Andy Warhol. So she goes up to him. She goes, stay right here. Don't move. Don't move. And Andy's like, okay. She runs into a grocery store and buys a can of Campbell's soup and brings it out, hands him a Sharpie, and Andy Warhol signs the can and gives it back to her. So she has an actual can of Campbell's soup.
Whoa.
Signed by Andy Warhol on display in their house. So
I was really hoping you were going to say that Andy Warhol met Hasil Adkins, but
no,
that'll do.
No, I wish I could say that. Of course, the world would have exploded and we wouldn't be doing this podcast.
We would have at
good.
least, been tilted on the axis at some point. Yeah.
Yes, probably good it didn't happen. That's too much.
That is too much.
So Billy and Miriam both had day jobs. So they had to go to work, and Hasil was alone, right? So
unsupervised,
and Miriam comes home and says, oh, hey, Hasil, are you hungry for dinner? He goes, no, I ate already. She goes, well, what'd you have? And he goes, well, I ate I had that soup, that chicken soup that you had up there on the shelf. Next thing you know, she's rooting through the trash can looking for the label.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So they do come together, Hasil.
They met in a way, yes.
In Hasil's stomach. But anyway, so what happened next is that Hasil goes back to West Virginia to the lifestyle that he's used to, and he gets into apparently he's carrying on with some guy's wife, and the guy comes over and wants to have it out with Hasil, and they have some kind of fight. And then Hasil goes over to that guy's trailer and starts shooting him with a gun. Well, shooting the trailer. I don't know if he shot the guy, but anyway, he gets arrested. And Billy and Miriam come in and say, Hasil's probation officer does not believe that he's a professional musician. So we're booking a bunch of gigs to prove that he's actually a recording artist and a professional musician and should be allowed to be free to do this and leave West Virginia. So I booked a gig in Philly for Hasil. And I guess the headline for this really is Hasil Adkins slept in my bed.
Oh.
That's where I should have started. But anyway.
Yeah.
But he did. He stayed at my place. So we played a gig together in Philly, and I set him up with a gig in front of a record store in Philly, owned by Greg Harris, who is now the CEO and president of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum.
There you go.
Where you interned, I believe, correct?
Years ago, yes, I did.
Wow.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, Greg owned a record store. Great guy, Greg Harris. He owned a funky record store called the Philadelphia Record Exchange, and Hasil played on the sidewalk in front of it. I think there might be video of that out there somewhere.
I hope so.
And then we went up to WFMU, and he went on the air there, and then he did another gig, and apparently his probation officer was satisfied with all that.
That was enough. Yeah, that was enough. All I needed to see.
But apparently the way Hasil left this world, it sounds apocryphal to me, but I think it might actually be true, is that he was run over by an all-terrain vehicle on his own property. Wow. Yeah.
That'll get you.
That's West Virginia, though. I mean, like where he lived, I mean, it was up in, it was the real deal, He was living a wild man's existence up there.
Yeah.
But Hasil Adkins, musical genius. Check him out if you're not familiar. Please
Wild
check him
records,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, great stuff.
It's that time again, Ben, for you to serenade the listeners. Are you ready?
I am.
Great. Let's see what the song hat picks for you today. Today's song is Walking My Way Back to Your Heart.
Ooh, Walking My Way. This song has an A6 chord in it. Isn't that a beautiful chord?
It is.
It's kind of like the friendly chord, like it contains compassion and empathy, all that stuff. In one chord, it's amazing. I wrote the song while walking, which, is kind of like an obvious thing, but it's really true. A lot of songwriters say this, that songs come to them when they're walking or when they're driving, when they're nowhere near their instrument to accompany themselves. And this is one of those that started that way. Walking My Way Back to Your Heart. Here we go. I'm walking my way back to your heart. Walking my way back to your heart. I gotta find a way to make a brand new start. Walking my way back to your heart. If the road is long, well, that's alright, 'cause I done wrong, and now I gotta make it right. So I'll trudge on through the day and night, and I won't stop till I'm holding you tight. I'm walking my way back to your heart. Walking my way back to your heart. I gotta find a way to make a brand new start. Walking my way back to your heart. I made a mistake and I feel so bad. These are the worst blues I've ever had. So step by step, I'll keep moving on. If the road gets wet, through the mud I'll crawl. And all I ask of you is one more chance to prove my love is true. Everybody. I'm walking my way back to your heart, back to your heart. Walking my way back to your heart, back to your heart. I gotta find a way to make a brand new start, make a brand new start. Walking my way back to your heart. I'm walking my way back to your heart. Walking my way back to your heart. And that's it.
You have just enjoyed another installment of Straight from the Hat with Ben Vaughn. To learn more about the names drawn from the hat for this episode, please visit straightfromthehat.com. Don't forget to tell a friend about this podcast. And please, subscribe to the show on your podcast platform of choice.